The summer heat hung thick over Liberty Street, shimmering in waves above the cracked pavement. Eleanor Ellie Vance, 72 and wrapped in quiet dignity, walked her usual Thursday route from Miller's Bakery. Her floral dress clung to her, and her canvas tote held a warm loaf of bread, 2 green apples, and a folded photo of her granddaughter, tucked close to her chest like a secret prayer, but a screech tore the piece apart. Tires screamed. A door slammed. "Hey, old roach, where you think you're limping to?" Eleanor turned, startled. Officer Dean Maxwell stormed across the street, his uniform soaked with sweat, eyes wild. His tone was sharp, oozing contempt. She blinked. "Excuse me." "I said halt," he barked. "Scuttling trash like you doesn't just wander around my precinct." "What's in a bag, huh? Stolen goods?" "It's just bread and apples," she said gently. Holding out, he snatched the bag, dumping its contents onto the hot concrete. Bread flattened under his boot. Apples rolled away. The photo fluttered near the curb. Maxwell leaned in. "You think I care about your excuses? You people always play the victim. Back in the day, we'd squash you and be done with it." "Please," Eleanor whispered, voice cracking. "I haven't done anything." He stepped forward, towering. His hand shot out and clamped around her throat. "You think God's listening?" he hissed. "You think you matter?" She gasped, her hands scrabbling at his wrist. "Can't breathe." Her knees buckled. Her eyes, wide with fear, blurred. Then a deeper shadow moved. James Bear Vance, 74, her husband of 49 years, turned the corner holding a bag of pastries meant to surprise her. What he saw stopped him cold. His Ellie, pinned, choking, the officer's hand tied around her throat. James moved fast, without hesitation, like he had in combat. A step, a pivot, a punch, clean and deadly, crashed into Maxwell's face. The officer collapsed, blood pouring from his nose. James caught Eleanor before she hit the ground, kneeling beside her as she gasped for air. "I've got you, my queen," he murmured, brushing hair from her damp forehead. "Just breathe. I'm here." But it wasn't over. Maxwell staggered to his feet, bloody and enraged. He yanked out his pistol, shaking. "You touched me, you black bastard," he screamed. "You're gonna kneel." James turned slowly, hands rising with calm defiance. "Put it down." "I said kneel." James took one step forward. With a twist and sweep, he disarmed the officer. The gun clattered to the pavement. Maxwell fell again, breathless, stunned. James pinned him, not violently, just firmly. "You'll live," he said coldly, "long enough to face justice." Sirens echoed through the air. People gathered. Phones recorded. Maxwell whimpered, suddenly small beneath the weight of everything he had unleashed. Paramedics arrived fast. "Female, 72, possible carotid compression," one shouted. They lifted Eleanor gently. James climbed in the ambulance beside her. No one dared question him. Back on the street, Maxwell lay handcuffed and bloodied. His lips split, dignity gone. He still cursed, but the venom was diluted now, with fear, with disbelief. That night, in a private room at Metro Central Hospital, Eleanor lay sedated but safe. Bruised but alive. The doctor spoke of luck. James knew better. He stood by the window, silent, staring into the lights of the city. They flickered like memories from darker times. His phone buzzed. He answered. "It's done," the voice asked. East Coast accent. Calm but sharp. "Yes," James replied. "Footage from a pawn shop camera. Everything's there. The slurs, the chokehold, even the part about God." Silence. "This goes public," the voice finally said. "Tomorrow." James nodded, though no one saw. "Let it. It's time." He looked back at Eleanor, her breathing now even. She'd survived, but the storm had only just begun. James took a deep breath, his grip tightening on the phone. "Send the footage to General Albright." Then to Marcus Thorne. "You sure about this? Don't ask me twice." Marcus Thorne, federal prosecutor, battle-hardened and fiercely principled, had owed James since Desert Storm. James once dragged him from an ambush with bullets flying overhead. That kind of debt lived in the marrow. Before sunrise, Thorne had the video labeled top priority. At the same hour, In a Pentagon office lined with silence and secrets, retired General Albright watched the same footage. White, conservative, but bonded to James like blood, he made one call to the district attorney. If that bastard isn't in cuffs before dawn, I'll rattle cages from here to Capitol Hill. The following morning, the city's police chief, face pale under studio lights, announced what many had feared and others had prayed for. Officer Dean Maxwell has been suspended without pay. We've reviewed damning footage. He will be arrested and prosecuted on charges including attempted homicide, racially motivated assault, and federal civil rights violations. James stood among the press crowd, expression stone hard. No uniform, just history in his stare. Eleanor, now home and slowly healing, watched the news unfold with tears that came not from pain, but from the taste of long-denied justice. A week later, James dressed with military precision. Navy suit, polished shoes, a service medal pinned discreetly. Not for pride, but for principle. He entered the courthouse not just as a husband, but as a force of reckoning. His attorney, Marcus Thorne, placed a black folder on the table before the judge. "Your Honor," he began, voice clear, "Mr. Vance is here not only as a victim's spouse, but as a veteran and as a witness to hate in its rawest form. He's here to ensure Dean Maxwell never breathes power again." Courtroom's silence deepened. All eyes turned toward James. When called to the stand, James walked with deliberate steadiness. He raised his hand, swore the oath, then turned to the jury. "My name is James Vance. I served this country for 27 years. I've seen war, loss, and chaos. But nothing, not even war, prepared me for the sight of my wife, a 72-year-old woman, being strangled in broad daylight for nothing but the color of her skin." He pointed, not looking, toward Maxwell. That man didn't act out of fear. He acted because he thought black lives were disposable. He called her a roach. He told her God had no mercy for slaves. And he smiled when he said it. The room held its breath, but God did show mercy, James said, his voice rising. Because she lived, and now justice will answer. Thorne stood. "Permission to play the footage, Your Honor?" The judge nodded. The lights dimmed. On screen, the pawn shop's silent witness rolled. Eleanor walking, the officer's approach, the verbal attack, the chokehold, her choking cries, and Maxwell's seething slurs that a hush followed. Maxwell stared at the floor, his face pale, sweat beading on his brow. Then, slowly, Eleanor rose. Against doctors' warnings, against pain, she stood. The court turned, stunned. "I didn't come here for vengeance," she said. "I came so that others like me won't walk these streets unseen, unheard. We are not invisible, and we are worthy." Moments later, the jury left. 40 minutes passed. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. A foreman stood. "We have, Your Honor. Guilty on all charges." Maxwell's legs gave way. His face twisted in disbelief. No parole. 30 years in federal prison. Dishonorable discharge. Federal civil rights violations pending. He was no longer a cop, just a cautionary tale. James didn't smirk. He offered no parting insult. Just one last look, solid, steady. The look of a man who kept his promise that a week later, Liberty Street felt different. Eleanor and James walked it again hand in hand. The bakery still smelled like warm bread. Flowers still bloomed. But now people nodded. Some placed a hand on their chest. Others whispered, "Thank you." Justice had found its way home. A tea sunset. James sat on the porch, a cup of coffee in one hand, a folder in the other. Inside, his service medal and the court's printed judgment. Maxwell's name had been slashed through in bold black ink. Eleanor joined him in her armchair, the breeze gently lifting her scarf. He took her hand, kissed her fingers. "I told you I'd protect you." "And you did," she whispered. James looked at the fading sky. "What do you want to do next, Ellie?" She smiled softly. "Live, and let the world remember what we stood for."